We meet again, Detective Briggs.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come out here.
It's the least I can do. I thought you might try to get in touch with me. I saw the news. Floyd Collister, murdered in his own club. The news didn't give many details, but you think it might be the boozer, don't you?
Or a copycat. The MO is similar. Male victim forced to ingest a toxic level of distilled alcohol. Murder took place in the same neighborhood as well. The MO, as I said, is similar, but it's not exactly the same. This victim isn't married, nor was he someone who could be described as a closeted homosexual.
The one that got away. The most frustrating case I ever worked, and my biggest regret, for so many reasons. Glenn and I worked as hard as we could to close this case. But I have to tell you the truth. The department, at that time, did not consider the boozer the highest priority.
Alright, because of who the victims were?
That's right. It's shameful, but there it is. I can only imagine what we might have been able to do if some people's hearts and minds had been different back then. Fortunately, for whatever reason, the boozer decided to stop on his own. Glenn and I both believed the killer was most likely someone merely posing as a transvestite prostitute in order to lure his victims. But witness testimony kept pushing us toward a couple of actual prostitutes, one of whom was Mr. Collister, and the other was a young man named Wally Biganowski. And I believe later on, those two gentlemen opened up a rather popular nightclub together.
Any other potential leads?
We've gone over the suspect file, but we're wondering if there's someone else we might be overlooking.
There was this one guy. I'd have to go through my notes here to recall his name exactly. I thought he was particularly interesting, but I'll admit it might have been feminine intuition or something ridiculous like that, because Glenn didn't agree with me, so I kept it out of our official reports.
What was intuition telling you about this guy?
As I can recall, and you should definitely go over my notes here, these are the originals. This fella had been charged with assaulting one of the victims maybe 4 months before the murders began. Let's see if I can remember the scenario for you. So this John comes down to the neighborhood looking for some love for sale. He ends up picking up a prostitute outside a club on Barber Street, and this prostitute is dressed like a lady. But before they could get down to doing their business, my suspect, whom I remember thought of himself as a kind of knight in shining armor, swoops down and beats this John up pretty good, defending the honor of this lady.
Suspect Gary Beaumont, arrested October 12th, 1975, assault. Victim Lon Muskie. Muskie was in the act of soliciting another male for the purpose of prostitution. Muskie released from police custody, not charged.
Let me get this straight. Gary attacks this guy Muskie, and a few weeks later, Muskie becomes one of the Barber Street boozer victims?
And then, 35 years later, who should discover our latest victim but Gary Beaumont?
Yeah. That's what I thought. It was going to be that guy. They have such an arrow.
Brass ran Gary Beaumont through the system, but he has no known address. Brass put out a bolo, but I'm hoping we can find Gary ourselves.
I'm sure it won't hurt to talk to Mr. Beaumont again. But I agree with Maurice's partner. He's not your man.
What makes you say that?
Yeah, this game has a really narrow list of suspects. We stumble onto everyone everywhere. Why do you think we're on the wrong track?
The Barber Street boozer obviously felt homicidal rage towards his victims. Married men who were secretly soliciting sex from male prostitutes dressed as women. Wallace Biganowski was an unmarried, openly gay female impersonator. Based on the circumstances surrounding Mr. Beaumont's assault charge, I'd say he was the kind of man who would have wanted to protect Wally, not hurt him and certainly not kill him.
Well, from what I saw of Mr. Beaumont's behavior at the crime scene and at the morgue, he would have to be a supremely talented actor. He was on an emotional roller coaster.
Could Gary be responsible for the original killings?
Maybe. For a serial killer, murder is an addiction. Recovery requires a lifelong commitment to some deliberate strategy of behavior modification. And unfortunately, there is no 12-step program for cold-blooded killing. So serial killers usually stop when they're caught or they die. In my professional opinion, if Gary Beaumont is a serial killer, it's difficult to believe that he just decided one day to stop cold turkey.
You're probably right, Ray, but I still think we should bring him in, just in case. Cover all the bases. And if Beaumont's been such a loyal customer all these years, maybe Marcel knows where he likes to hang out when he's not at the cabaret.
So who should we talk to? Beaumont? Oh, there's nothing here. Alright, so
I'll bring him right up to interrogation.
let's talk to Floyd. Hello, Floyd. Anything to add? We're looking for Gary Beaumont.
Gary? You think Gary had something to do with this?
Maybe.
We just want to ask him a few more questions, that's all.
Gary's harmless. I mean, he's a pain in the ass because he's always just hanging around needing attention, but he couldn't really hurt anybody, I don't think. He gets thrown out of some places because he's awkward, a little strange. Sometimes he smells, but it's... he's homeless. I wanted to help him, but I never really had the time, you know? I mean, I didn't bother him when I found him pretty much living in the alley behind the club.
You turned up in an old case file.
Marcel, were you aware that back in 1975, Floyd Collister was on a list of suspects in the Barber Street murders?
Yes, Floyd used to get into a lot of trouble with the police. He was a hooker and he took drugs. But, like I said, that's not the real reason why the police thought he was a deviant. Anyway, that's all water under the bridge now, isn't that right? He cooperated fully, as I recall, answered all the questions. They let him go, and after that, I decided that Floyd should move on. And he did.
If I told you that out of the 4 male prostitutes that were identified as possible suspects back then, you're the only one left alive, what would you say to that?
Ma'am, you're wrong. They're all dead.
Anything else?
I'm sorry, but I really have nothing more to say to you.
Alright. I don't know what to do. What to do. So we have some notes. I don't know why. Do we need this? Or what to do with this? Right. So 1, 2 items of... Oh, Ellie. Didn't pay attention, it seems. And he's drinking Old Cork whiskey.
Hey, what's going on?
Classic cork, huh? Gary, for a homeless
Oh,
guy,
classic
you
cork.
sure have expensive taste in booze.
Hand over the bottle, Gary.
Yeah, of course, here. Well, what's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that, huh?
Not exactly a 4-star hotel. It's a love letter to Wally. From Gary.
Oh my. So we can talk to him. Oh, it's a nice little shack. Okay. Is there something else that I didn't notice? Guess not. Oh, I got mail. Well, it's not finished. Alright, what do you want? Oh, search the dumpsters. Okay. Where are the dumpsters?
Anyone can get in and out of the club through here.
That's nice. Oh, a lot of bottles.
It would have taken at least this much alcohol to kill Biganowski.